What's going on, guys? Jaime here. I want to talk to you guys about something very, very important that you might have never spoken about. And here's what's funny. Everything that I talk about usually on these videos is I tend to say it's all important, but it's because it really is. Everything, in my opinion, is very, very important, which is the exact topic that I want to talk about. I've noticed that as entrepreneurs, we tend to focus a lot on the important things when it comes to business, right? Where we focus on the money producing activities, on the sales team, on the marketing team, and making sure that everything is lined up. And then we end up saying, you know what? Things when it comes to family and my health and all these other things can wait because they're not that important. I've also seen the same thing as an entrepreneur in the actual business where people will say like, hey, you know what? I'd rather focus on marketing. If marketing's on point, everything else will play out. Focus on the fulfillment on the operational side of the business and everything else will work out. Or the legal side or the customer service side or like all these different things. My message here really today is to tell you that everything is important. Every single little thing that we work on, every single little thing that you do, every single thing that encompasses who you are as a person and that affects your life in every single part of your life is important. And so I have tended to like really just focus on certain things where I tend to be like, you know what, this is the thing that I get to focus on right now because this is the most important thing happening in my life right now and it's the thing that I want to focus on. There's like this balance that I've learned where like, yes, you get to do that to a certain degree, right? Because to a certain degree, if you want to build a crazy business or if you want to become the best athlete in the world or if you want to become the best parent in the world, or you want to have the biggest and strongest spiritual foundation ever, you get to focus on it a lot. You get to put a lot of attention into it and practice it on a daily basis so that you actually build a strong foundation when it comes to any of those things. But at the same time, I've noticed that when you get too caught up within just one specific domain of your life, you might become fucking great at it, but then everything else gets dropped. How do we make sure we stay accountable to making sure that everything is important, that everything stays in our radar so that we actually can follow through, not just for the people that are in our lives and that are affected by the decisions and the things that we do, but at the same time, work diligently and ruthlessly to a certain degree. And I'm using ruthlessly for lack of better words, but ruthlessly in the sense of like, I'm going all in on this path because I want to have the strongest spiritual foundation ever. I want to have the strongest foundation when it comes to working out or the basis of like the specific sport that you're working on because you want to become the best and you should do that. I'm actually agreeing with that. Like you should do that. And it's funny because when you look at somebody like an athlete, they say these things all the time. Professional athletes who've gotten really, really good at a high level, they say every single little detail matters. Nothing gets skipped. Nothing gets overseen. Nothing gets dismissed. Like you have to pay attention to every single little detail. And like you can't just say like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I'll just focus on this specific skill set of the sport because if I'm a great scorer or if I'm a great, defender, nothing else matters. But in reality, it all matters. Your footwork matters. Your attention to detail matters. Your focus matters. How methodical you are matters. Game planning matters. Watching film matters. Like there's so many nuances when it comes to becoming a great athlete that they all matter. And the same thing applies to being a great human, right? Just being a good person, every single little bit matters, right? Imagine being an entrepreneur who is making millions and millions of dollars, but you live a very unhappy life. You don't like your family, or at least you're disconnected from your family. You don't enjoy your kids. You hate living with your spouse, whether it's your husband or your wife, and you're just unhappy, right? You just don't feel fulfilled. That is one version of like, hey, not everything is important right now. I should just focus on making money. What if we could focus on everything? What if you can actually get to a point where everything is important and you're actually taking everything, not just with a grain of salt, but actually making it important within your life, within your day-to-day, within how you practice life and how you go about things with people to actually amplify it. And that's something that I have learned honestly very recently where like every detail matters. Everything, every detail matters. When you start missing the details and start assuming that not everything is important, there's a big gap starts getting created in your life or within that specific domain of your life. By the time you realize it, you're too far too gone, right? And this doesn't mean that you can't go back and fix it, but it means that you can get to a point where you're like, oh man, I've done so much damage now that it's gonna take a lot of time, a lot of effort to not only reverse what I have created and what I've done and how I've affected people or how I've affected myself, but also reverse engineer my way of seeing things, my way of thinking about things. That process takes time. That process takes time, and it's something that we do, right, as people, like throughout our lives, like as we're going through self-development, spirituality, entrepreneurship, sports, etc. You're constantly growing, right? And it's great if we catch those at some point or another. It's way better than catching them than never catching them. So if there's something I want you to take away from this video is that how can you live your life in a way where every single part, every single detail, every single person is important and it should not be dismissed. I believe that you can create a way better outcome in your life and get the results that you want if you are actually able to start perceiving everything that way, everything. And so that's what I got for you guys today. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.